as you wake up.
Well, the program is here this morning on ITV, and we're on to the first interview segment. And today is Nigeria's 58th Independence Day celebration. And it is not a coincidence that we have our aviation freak in the studio today who is also celebrating his birthday today. That means by implication that he is the birthday mate of Nigeria, the same day but not the same year. You are welcome to our program, Godike.
Oh, thank you, Gabriel. Thank you very much.
Happy birthday to you.
Oh, thanks. Thanks a lot, my dear viewers. Please welcome to the program. Gabriel,
Yes.
I am 61 today.
Okay, we'll pop the champagne later. 3 years older than Nigeria. He's 3 years older than Nigeria since it got her independence. And today we'll be looking at the aviation sector. Before we go into infrastructure in the aviation sector, Mr. Godike, the birthday mate of Nigeria. By the way, how has the aviation sector fared for this 58 years?
Well, ups and downs, and which is natural in life. Everything in life is all about ups and downs. And aviation, you know, at a point came to a state that we should have taken higher and been, you know, the biggest and best, national airline in the country. I mean, in Africa. In Africa, but we missed it, and so I still miss that airline. Nigeria Airways came down. I really miss it because at the time in my life as a young businessman, I was flying Nigeria Airways virtually fortnightly to London. And I mean, I had a nickname at the time. They nicknamed me at their Apapa office, Must Fly. And so even when they said that the plane was full, they found me a seat. I didn't know how they did it until I carried out the research on which I titled "Rise and Fall of Nigeria Airways," and I found out how those seats, came out. Even when the flight was said to be filled to the brim, but somehow must get a seat. Yeah. So a lot of very silly and unacceptable things that went on, and we should learn our lessons, and so some of us have emerged. Even though not a pilot, but got into research and then dug really deep into the sector, and then I can very confidently confront anyone anywhere in the world and discuss aviation and what should and should not be. So we made our mistakes, and right now what we must do is to ensure that if we're doing another national airline, we must do it sincerely and do it with all diligence and make sure that aviation is a profitable business. It's very profitable. Otherwise, you can't explain to me why the likes of Emirates. I mean, Emirates started its own airline with 2 borrowed airplanes. At the time, Nigeria Airways had about 32 of them that belonged to Nigeria. And with 2 borrowed airplanes, they have them in thousands right now, and the best, and always brand new. I mean, how can you explain that? Ethiopian Airline is doing well, Kenyan Airline is doing well, South African Airline is doing well. I mean, you name them, they're all doing well. So something is just systematically wrong here. We have a systemic issue that we need to deal with, and deal with it very sincerely. And if we do, Nigeria has the numbers. We are huge as a people, as a nation, as natural resources, and we can do much better. So that's the much I can tell you about aviation in these 58 years.
Okay, I'm not going to ask you to rate Nigerian or aviation sector between 1 and 10, but before we go to the topic of today, which is financing and developing aviation infrastructure, let's look at the sad incident that happened on Friday, preparatory to the parade by the Nigerian Air Force. There was a clash.
Unfortunately, I mean, I would have said much more than I'm going to say right now. But unfortunately, we're dealing with military issue here, and they are quite sensitive in the military about their issues. So one is not going to speculate about what caused the accident. I can only comment that one of the pilots was said to be a trainee pilot, according to reports in the newspaper. I hope it's true, or should I say, I hope it's not true. He's a trainee pilot who was also flying solo. And then I do know that once or twice that I saw them overflying, my office in Wuse too. I noticed they were usually in what we know in aviation as flying in echelon, where you have one plane ahead and right on top another one, and then another. You see, these formations have rules. I mean, you can do a V formation where you have one here, one there, and then one on the other side, making a V. All kinds of formations, but they have rules. And I guess that was what the practice was all about, to ensure that they got a knack of those rules, so that by today they will thrill Nigerians and indeed the world, and those Nigerian friends who have visited in order to celebrate with us, watch them perform in the skies, and that was the essence of the practice they went out to do. But I'll tell you something. If you're doing a linear flying in echelon and a closely knit one, where you have the airplanes really close to each other, one on top of the other, and the leader heading, especially when it is a linear, kind of when I say linear, they're on a straight line, but in echelon, going this way, another one that way, another one that way. Breaking out of the formation has a rule.
Okay. Which must be obeyed.
Which must be obeyed. And I'll use this on miniature to show you something. I really do not, I'm not saying that that's what happened there, but I've been thinking and imagining what could have led those airplanes to, making contact and therefore, crashing. So I am not describing what happened there, but I'm describing to you, the possibilities and what flying in echelon means. Okay, if you are going this way with the lead airplane, and the other one is on top, and especially when you want to make it look like a single aircraft, about 4 airplanes can make a formation that will make them look like one aircraft. So it's closely knit. What it then means when you are so closely knit, you see the vertical separation may not be high enough to contain your wing when you're breaking out. Okay. Can you see that? Yeah. But so if it's closely knit, if you do this,
if it's breaking out, there'll be contact. There'll be contact with the one trailing behind.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you get the picture. Yeah. So what it then follows is that obeying the rule. If one is here and the other is there and the other is there, when you want to break out of the formation, the topmost must break out first to the right.
To the other side.
Followed by the one next to it.
Next to it, yeah.
Followed by the one next to it before the last one.
Okay.
So, I don't know what error led to that contact, but we'll leave it to the military. When they investigate and think that we civilians need to know the truth,
they will tell us.
They will tell us. Okay. And until they do, we'll say no more.
Okay. So let's look at the topic of today. Yes. Funding is critical to the aviation sector. Nigeria was talking about the Nigerian Air, and funding was a key issue. The $300 million US, for 5% stake in that company. We talked about it on the program repeatedly with His Royal Highness here on the program. Now, how do we get it right if we want to start Nigerian Air and fund it very well?
I do understand your point. We're going to run through this, clips that I made into pages, which I presented during the Ataka seminar last week, and Ataka is Abuja Transport and Aviation Correspondents Association, ATACA. They invited me to present the lead paper on that day, and this was the paper I presented, which a lot of my followers on WhatsApp and have been asking, can we see this, can we see that? And I decided to run a series on it. Maybe if we don't finish today, next week, Monday, we run through, and then you see what it takes. But what I can tell you is that last year, when the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, had its only and first forum outside Canada since 1944. ICAO forum has always been taking place in Canada. and all over the world, aviation, people go to Canada to attend that, the forum, every year. But last year, Nigeria became the first country in the whole world to have that forum brought home to us in 2017.
That's a great feat.
Yes, since 1944. I attended, I registered. It was an expensive one. I registered and attended, and I can tell you what I had there. You've got so much funds out there. The latest airport in Senegal was built, top-class airport, without $1 belonging to Senegal going into the project.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how much funds we've got out there. They told us in blunt, clear language, we've got to put our acts together, do our paperwork, do our planning. Everything must be done, diligently and sincerely. Then you present it to the appropriate authorities. And I know who we're talking about right now. And they'll look at the feasibility and the viability of the project, approve it if it's feasible and viable, and then the funds will come in and we do what we have to do. But
so we don't necessarily need to, put all the funds together from the country.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's why I'm shocked and surprised that we went on the way we did with the Nigeria Air. I made every effort to very sincerely reach the Honorable Minister. He was just too busy, and never really available to be spoken to. I had a sincere heart. I wanted to sit him down and say to him, Honorable Minister, yes, you call the shots here, but please consider this, that, and that, and that.
For the interest of the aviation sector.
Interest of the aviation sector and interest of the nation. Unfortunately, I was never able to get hold of him, and I let it be until they came up with what they doled out to Nigerians as the Nigeria Air project. Along the line, the foremost whistleblower in Nigeria, Dr. George Ubo, started his kind of patriotic trouble. I call it trouble, and at the same time I call it patriotic. Patriotic trouble, and then raised issues, and then of course contacted me as the foremost aviation freak and enthusiast in Nigeria. Asked a few questions, I gave him answers, and then they decided to appear on my show. The rest is history that those who are following can judge by themselves. Shortly after that, the government suspended. It's my hope that we can still put our acts together
and get it right.
Yes, do things properly and get it right, and then don't fritter our money, don't waste our money. Do what is feasible, do what's viable. Get it really going and make profits, and become one of the best, at least in Africa, and then take it from there. It's still possible, my brother. It's still very possible, very possible. So that's about that.
Let's see the slides for today.
Yeah, page 1, please. Let's look at, run through it. It's just the topic, which is saying financing and developing, just as presented to Ataka, last week, developing aviation infrastructure, the threats and opportunities. Run through to page 2 and then run to 3. Those are the protocols that we took on that day. Page 3, please, so that we can go straight to business. Page 3. Yeah, here we go. Introduction. All right. I started by saying that it's my pleasure to be in Ataka seminar again to share our knowledge. In order to fully understand the threats and opportunities associated with the financing and development of aviation infrastructure, we must have a full grasp of the definition of infrastructure, the nature of its ownership and its financing. Now, if you look at that photograph embedded there, that is solar panels. Solar panels. Those are solar panels at the international airport at Kochi, India, the world's first airport
to be fully powered by solar energy.
And
that's possible.
Yes, Kochi Airport is #1, and it is fully powered. Purely, those are the panels, installed out there. And then you ask yourself, does India have more sun than Nigeria?
Much more sun than we do.
That's a question, and we still grapple with issues of power. I've had the experience of once, but that was a little long ago. Approaching Abuja for touchdown, and suddenly light went off, and the pilot quickly put a big blast of his power and headed back into the skies, in order to keep us safe and alive. And of course, it took a time, maybe put on generator, and then we were able to do a turnaround, and then came and landed safely. That's why I'm still here with you. I probably would have been history by now. So when you think about this, it saddens your heart.
Isn't this an opportunity we should be thinking about right now?
Yes, and we can afford it as a people and as a nation. And what's more, we do not really need our cash to do it. We just need our guarantee as a responsible nation and a responsible government to have the funding agencies come in and do the great job of it. So that's Kochi in India for you. 100% powered purely by solar. So let's move on. Page 4, please. And definition of infrastructure continues. Infrastructure can be defined as the basic systems and services that are necessary for a country or an organization to run smoothly. Aviation infrastructure is therefore defined as the basic systems and services that are necessary for the smooth running of air transportation. Infrastructure is composed of public and private physical improvements such as roads, bridges, tunnels, water supply, sewers, electric grids, telecommunications, etc. That's the composition of what infrastructure can be, but there are quite a whole lot of them, This is just to mention a few. Infrastructure can be viewed in two general types,
the hard and the soft.
Or soft infrastructure. Hard infrastructure refers to the physical networks necessary for the functioning of a modern industry. This includes roads, bridges, railways, etc. Let's move quickly to page 5. Quickly, time is running to chase us away from here. Soft infrastructure refers to all the institutions that maintain the economic, health, social, and cultural standards of a country. This includes educational programs, parks, and recreational facilities, law enforcement agencies, and emergency services. Although the word infrastructure was imported from French in 1875 and used in English since 1887, urban planners adopted it in its modern civilian sense only in 1970. All right. Now, the photo you're looking at is the passenger terminal building of Incheon International Airport, Incheon, South Korea. Awesome airport, awesome, really awesome. So that's just to please the eyes of our viewers to see the kind of things that are possible and the kind of things happening around the world. And we can do the same, but we've got to be diligent, and we've got to be sincere, and we've got to be serious. It's the only way. There's no other way. Like a book writer will write, the only way, the hard way. Who was that again?
The hard way, the only way.
Hadley Chase? Or,
it was even a movie.
Well, it was written by one of the great novelists. I'm trying to imagine whether it was Hadley Chase or what's the name of the other one? The one that wrote. My memory is failing me now. But anyway, let's move on to page 6. Page 6 quickly. Here we go. Infrastructure may be owned by government or private companies. Roads, major ports, airports, water distribution systems, and sewage networks are usually publicly owned. But energy and telecommunications networks are usually privately owned. Okay. While publicly owned infrastructure may be financed from taxes, now we are going to the real thing. tolls or metered user fees. Private infrastructure is usually paid for by metered user fees. You see, the public ones will come from taxes, tolls, or meter fees. The other thing I didn't ask is that you can as well borrow from, but we're going to see that along the line, from people who have long-term funds, so that you don't have a mismatch. But when we get there, we'll discuss that. Let's just move on. For major investment projects, issuance of long-term bonds provides the necessary liquidity for financing them. Can you see some of the sources? Now, let's move to 7 very quickly. There are various infrastructure investment categories. A, infrastructure debt. This is a complex, now listen to this and get it and really understand it. This is a complex investment category reserved for highly sophisticated investors who can gauge jurisdiction-specific risk parameters, assess a project's long-term viability, understand transaction risks, conduct due diligence, negotiate creditors' agreement. That's the sort of thing that we should have been doing with Nigeria Air. That's what is I'm reeling out for you right now. Make timely decisions on consents and waivers, and analyze loan performance over time. That is for infrastructure debt, when you have to borrow money to get infrastructure going on. We can do same in Nigeria. We just have to know what we're doing. Now, B, pensions and sovereign wealth funds. These are major investors in infrastructure. They have long-dated liabilities which match long-term investments such as infrastructure. I mean, you know about the pensions funds, and there are lots of...
Over 8 trillion naira now in Nigeria.
That is Nigeria alone. Around the world, the figures have bust the computer system. And they are there, willing. At least I know 20 solid ones around the world, both in Australia and all over, with huge funds sitting, waiting for serious-minded organizations, countries, and to come forward and discuss business, and they're moving their long-term funds to match long-term projects such as infrastructure. That's what we should be doing in Nigeria.
I'm not talking about the $300 million invest for 5% stake.
That's even peanuts to talk about, setting up the kind of thing that we need as a people and as a nation. This country is huge. Gabriel, this country is awesome. We are the ones making it look little, and we must change. They read through change. Page 8, please. Infrastructure investment categories continue. Supranational and public investors. Take note of that. If we find time, you ask me questions on that. But then otherwise, when we come to conclude by next week, then we can take all the questions. The IMF, World Bank, and European Commission policy makers in recent years have shown interest in the idea of supranational and public co-investments in infrastructure projects, jointly with private institutional asset owners. Supranational, I'll quickly explain that to you, where you have different countries and different organizations coming together as one and choosing to do a project. Yes,
pulling resources together.
That's correct, and doing it well. That's what is known as supranational. And it's a way to also, and IMF and World Bank and of course European Commission policymakers have been recently showing interest in those kind of arrangements, and then we must begin to think. See, these are very expensive pieces of information I'm doling out to our dear nation free of charge.
Free of charge.
And for me,
just to see things work.
Yes, and for me, it's costing me airtime that I pay to ITV. And that's the way to go. It was an American leader that says, do not ask for what the country
can give you, but what you can do for the
country. Find what you can do for your nation. This is what I'm doing for Nigeria. Whether the Nigeria appreciates it or not is not important. What is important is that when I leave and pass on, it will stay as my legacy. So, number D, foreign ownership of public assets. In infrastructure nationalism, has been considered risk by experts. All right, it's quite risky. according to experts. Those are some of the things we're going to ask sometime, if we can do it today, about the infrastructure nationalism. I mean, insisting on owning your infrastructure like we seem to be doing in Nigeria. We want to use all our petrodollar to do everything. No, we can get people from outside, come do it and be part of the owners, run it well, run it profitably, make money, get back your
15,
money.
20 and hand it over to the government.
Yes, and get the hell out of here. I mean, Nigeria will still be Nigeria. This land will still be here. Nobody's going to put it in the pocket like a piece of biscuit. You know, that's the way it works. You know, so that's infrastructure nationalism. The experts say it's risky, so we should learn to do it better. For long-term successes of the infrastructure asset class, steady investment flows from foreign pensions and sovereign funds are needed. Emphatically spoken. Did you get that? Okay, so nine quickly, please. Let me just hope that I'll get somewhere before I get chased away from the studio. How an asset will infrastructure asset management, okay? Now, how an asset will perform in objective and measurable terms is described by Standard of Service, SOS. SOS defines the service that a customer is entitled to receive. It also includes definition of a minimum condition grade, which is established by considering the consequences of a failure of the infrastructure asset. Key components of infrastructure asset management include 1. Definition of standard service. 2. Establishment of measurable specifications on how the asset should perform. 3. Establishment of a minimum condition grade. 4. Establishment of a whole life cost approach to the management of the asset. And 5. Elaboration of an asset management plan. You can now see that it's not something you just wake up overnight, assemble people and say, okay, let's do this, let's do that, and you begin to juggle out figures and begin to shun out money. No, a whole lot of hard work goes into this and planning, and if you want to succeed. So I hope somebody somewhere is listening. Now, page 10. Let's see if we can get 1 or 2 more clips. How many more minutes do I have?
Okay, we have less than 4 minutes.
Okay, so we can do 2 more pages and then leave the rest for next week. Establishment of Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, ICRC. Awesome organization, awesome, well thought out organization with very robust law. You know, that Nigerians don't even know that this exists, but they're going to be learning today that this ICRC is there for everyone. If you want to make any form of investment in the infrastructure in Nigeria, just walk in there, choose what you want. You know, they tell you how to go about it, make your business outline case for you, and then you are good to go. So it's open to all, as a matter of fact. So let's go. In order to ensure that the provision and financing of infrastructure in Nigeria, especially the aviation infrastructure, provides more opportunities than threats. Remember, we are dealing with financing, developing, threats and opportunities. So in order to do it in a way that opportunities are more than threats, the federal government of Nigeria, in her wisdom, established the ICRC in the year 2005. That is the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, ICRC. That was in 2005. The ICRC Act 2005 provides for the participation of the private sector in financing the construction, development, operation, or maintenance of infrastructure or development projects of the federal government through concession or contractual arrangements, and the establishment of ICRC to regulate, monitor, and supervise the contracts on infrastructure or development projects. 11, please. Page 11, yeah.
Yes, we wind down with page 11.
Yes. Sorry?
We just wind down with page 11 and leave the rest for next week.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Now, we are continuing with the ICRC. The ICRC Act 2005 is an awesome and robust piece of legislation. If well implemented, there is no reason any infrastructure should be unattended to in Nigeria. Some of the interesting provisions that contractors and business proponents can take advantage of include 1. Part 1, Section 1, Subsection 1 of the ICRC Act provides that the project must be financially viable. 2. All investment and development projects in Nigeria are up for grabs by anyone or corporate body with financial capability to perform. You find that available for you in Section 1, subsection 2 of the ICRC Act, and Part 1 of it, by the way. 3, by Section 11, provision, all agreements made with the Commission are sacrosanct. No one can arbitrarily suspend, stop, cancel, or change the infrastructure concession agreement. That is certainty of contract. It's awesome. You don't find that in other, contractual arrangements. I mean, one minister can come in, wake up overnight, doesn't like your face, and stop your project, give one excuse or the other. But not in this concession, business. The law, prohibits it. That's what you find in Section 11 of the ICRC Act of 2005. So 4, and the final for the day, contractors are guaranteed right of way and easement in any site they are dealing with. You find that in Section 13. So, my dear viewers, we'll continue next
just before we go.
Ask me a few questions, and then we'll
just before we go.
Yes.
We talked about the pension fund. We talked about the sovereign wealth fund investment, and several other kinds of investment. We have the Margaret Ekpo Airport in Calabar. We have the Kano Ibiam Airport in Enugu. We have the Port Harcourt Airport, and all of these are lacking in infrastructure. Does that mean we've not taking into cognizance the fact that there is so much fund right now there to fix this airport and have the aviation sector?
My dear Gabriel, if you don't have it, you don't have it. If you don't know it, you don't know it. And so the essence of leadership and management is just, it's not about being the one to know everything. It's about the skill to manage human resources out there.
Okay.
And pulling sincerely. I keep using the word sincerely, because if you mean to do something in a very insincere way because of some ulterior motives, then of course you're not going to be expecting a good result. If you assemble, people who have good information, who have good knowledge, and who have the expertise to get things planned, done and delivered. The planning stage is the most difficult part of the job. Execution is as simple as throw money at those that you have already given the plan.
The planning is most important. It's very important.
Yes, that's the most important of it all.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Godi Ike. We'll be talking more about these questions and these issues, the supranational, fund and everything, and we're going to be learning so much. And we do hope that those in authority are listening and they will take advantage of this privileged information by the aviation freak. Thank you so much for coming on the program today, Mr. Godi, and a happy birthday and happy 58th anniversary celebration of Nigeria. And 61st birthday
for me.
Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Nigeria, 61 me.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Right.
We just take a quick break now. When we return, it will be yet another interview segment of the program this morning on ITV. Stay with us.